Good evening, everybody. My name's Charlie Turnbull. This is my my dog, Cusco, who has come in today. No, really, go and lie down, chick. Right. I'm gonna give her a bit of cheese. She's as mad as cheese as I am. There you go. That's good. That's worked. Right. My name's Charlie Turnbull. We are doing cheese and wine. So this is the first in the autumn season. We will be talking cheese as a cheese board. We were talking wine as a accompaniment to really, well, I don't know, because that's what we want, isn't it? We want cheese and wine. We want them together. We want to have a good time. And it's really about that sense of how do we use it at home? How do we make, maybe you're a professional. How do we get our customers to enjoy it? So this is my cheese board. Now, the magic of technology isn't picking up on this very well. So I am going to bring it to you. We have 3 cheeses on tonight. Now, you would have seen if you've been paying close attention to my missives, my social media and all that kind of stuff. God, that looks bad. Cusco, go and lie down. Go and lie down. Go on. That we were going to have a Perac called Perac down. We were going to have my all-time favorite sheep's milk cheese, look at that. It's like some weird cloak of invisibility over this cheese. Right. Some weird, it's not weird at all. So this is Ossau Iraty. So this is made from in the Pyrenees, a sheep's milk cheese. We'll come on to telling that story in a second. And we were going to have Brebirousse, which is from Lyon, which is very much close to the Beaujolais region. It's sort of at the south end of the Beaujolais region. And Brebirousse is a fascinating cheese. It comes from a single creamery that makes the cheeses. They have a method of concentrating the milk to get the really dense solids up, and then using a centrifuge before they, put the starter in, put the rennet in, and it gives a really creamy aspect. There are 3 cheeses they make. They make a sheep's milk, a goat's milk, and a cow's milk, all of which I recommend, but the Brebirousse is very much my favorite. And they tend to color them with natto, but only the skin. But it's missing. My wonderful cheesemonger who works with me, unfortunately, has had a family tragedy, and she's off games. And consequently, when I went in today, I was without the Brebirousse. So we've got in as a first reserve off the bench a pecorino with truffles. Now, that's not French, I know. Well done. But the Beaujolais, which we've got today, we've got the Jean-Marc Burgaud. Is known for going things like veal and all that kind of stuff. So bringing in that sort of that dense savouriness that truffle delivers, that aromatic savouriness, I thought might be a little bit of a nice, pleasant left field one to go with this. So let's start talking about our guest wine of the evening. Now, the Beaujolais region is north of Lyon, south of what you might think of as Burgundy proper. Beaujolais is in Burgundy. It is a Rhone wine. It's on that eastern side of France. The Rhone drops down through the eastern side, sort of cutting off France from the Alps, drops out into the Mediterranean. And along that region, what we know as Burgundy, but also goes down to those southern regions, which include things like the Côte de Rhone, we have Beaujolais. Now, it's thought of as a light, fruity wine, and some might say kind of like the sort of Peter Pan of the wine regions. Very much never quite grows up. Even though they do have some good crus there, some really nice things like Brewery and Fleury, it's a little bit second fiddle to those northern wines, the Macons and the stuff that goes up there when some of the greatest wines of France. And consequently, it's made a really big thing out of its freshness. It's a gamay grape. And Beaujolais Nouveau Day, which I don't know if that means anything to you today, was very much a thing when I was young. I remember when I was extremely young, just out of school, I drove down to Sussex University in my mum's mini metro, which I borrowed for the day. I did tell her it was red. We used to call it the baked bean can because it rattled. And went to Sussex University, and the lady, or probably, she was a student there at the time, showed us around. And while she was showing us, she invited us out to a Beaujolais Nouveau party, which I hadn't a clue what it was. It just sounded cool. And it very nearly, on its own merits, made me want to go to Sussex University, which ironically, I drove past today and is only a few miles that way right today. So I'm back in the Sussex region thinking about Beaujolais Nouveau. Now, the four classifications of the Beaujolais, we have the Nouveau, which is very light. I think it's something like the third Thursday in November it gets released. Used to get sort of piles of people to go pick it up. And that is super fruity. Then we have the Beaujolais, and then we have the Beaujolais Village, and then we have the Cruise. Now, we've got here a Beaujolais Village, which is very nice. I will be tasting it. So my notes tell me, now I am not a wine specialist, that we should be looking for red fruits from this, red fruits. So that makes me think of red currants, that makes me think of raspberries and strawberries and all that kind of thing. And we will see if that's what we get. So let's click in. So if you've got a glass of wine, pick it up now and get ready to do that kind of teeth-sucking thing that we all get used to. So the color is still a good dark color. It's not got that light brightness. I'm not spitting it out. Okay. I tasted this a few minutes ago, and I was definitely getting sort of red currants, arguably a bit black currants. I'm sorry, blackberries. Well, we've got a lot of blackberries around here right now, so maybe those are on my mind. But having had it open for maybe 30 minutes now, I am getting a bit of strawberry, not so much on the raspberry, maybe a hint of raspberry there. So yes, very much a red currant wine, very light, very fresh, but not sweet. I mean, you know, there's that thing about sweetness. Is there sweetness, or does it, you imagine it's sweet because it's got strawberry flavor? It doesn't have any of that company sweet. So it's got some light tannins, which is as advertised. Very nice. And I'd say it's only lightly acidic. It's only lightly acidic. So welcome, guest wine. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be bringing you in as we meet each of our cheeses tonight. Okay. So first off the blocks, Perac. Now this is a Perac version, and you might not know the Perac. Oh, how annoying! I think I'm gonna have to get a different color screen or something. So because it keeps, there you go. So you can see that it's got sort of a, I don't know what to call that. It's not a full geotrichum rind. It's a little brick, which is a nice size. It's a good portion. We're talking about 120, 130 grams. They are more common in sort of medallions about that size, which are a little smaller. And they tend to have, or historically would have had, a geotrichum rind. So that more yeastiness than the mold. But this one definitely seems to be a blended rind of geotrichum and canditum, the camembert mold. And that, because it's a very thin little chappy, we're talking about a centimeter, maybe a centimeter and a half, or somewhere between the two, means we're going to get full ripeness coming in. It's going to go completely from the inside to the outside. And this is what I really love about these cheeses, that we get full up. So we can actually, and I don't know if I should do it. Last time I did this, it landed on my microphone, so I'm going to move that, maybe put a little bit of paper out here. I'm going to squeeze it out. Look at that. Come on. You know, so it's really dripping down here. How nice is that? I mean, let's get me in it. Oh, it's beginning. Oh, catch it. There we go. Right. Oh, I love this. Now, I don't think you get anything like the distinctive sheep's milk flavor out of a sheep's milk camembert style as you get cow's milk. No, the other way around. Cow's milk moves on from its flavor when you get a camembert or this kind of cheese. But sheep's milk, I believe in this, really holds its sheep's milk flavor. You get that sweetness, not the nuttiness we're going to get in later cheeses, but a sweetness, but the florality, made up word, but good, florality of it is still really present. So you get that little hint of sort of grassy bitterness, but the aromatics still come up strong. So I'm getting nice herbs off there. Gentle herbs, the herbs of the field, the sort of I want to say sort of the buttercups and that kind of thing. I'm seeing little blue flowers in my head. No idea if I'm just making that up for the effect. It's really nice. Hi, Drew. Nice to see you. Nice to drop in. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm seeing you on Saturday when we do the big cheddar off, which is James Grant's product, number 2 Pound Street. If you guys need to see that, that is 2 hours of cheddar action, really good cheddar action that's going to be happening on Saturday. So look out for that. I'm one of the panelists there. So what's next on this? So we're going to taste this. Now, obviously, this cheese is going to be quite a lot of rind because of the nature. So the taste of the rind is important. It's not just about its creaminess. So cheers. Here's to the first of many wine and cheese boards. Oh, that is delicious. I did do a sneaky. I've decided to myself that I need to prepare for these a little better. So I have tasted all these now, which sometimes I don't. My Beaujolais is lightly chilled, that end of summer red wine chilled vibe. I thought I might go for a Brûlé, but they were all a bit unavailable or a bit expensive. And having consulted my wine knowledgeable friends, they go, just go for a good Village. It'll be absolutely delicious. And they're absolutely right. So the coolness makes the cheese feel quite warm and succulent. And when you put it together, it does slightly emphasize the savory, tanniny nature of the wine. But I wouldn't call that a match in the full sense. We're not getting a massive change there, but it really brings out the enjoyment of both, and you can just sit back and enjoy that. So, cheese number one, Perac, the Loup Perac Perac with the Beaujolais. Delicious, full flavour of both. Very much enjoyed them. It's a win. Right, the two next cheese I'm going to do in reverse order because I think the truffle is going to be quite big in the experience. So I'm going to go to my friend, the Ossau Iraty. Now, the Ossau Iraty is a cheese that comes from the Pyrenees, I've discussed. Now, it is a PDO, right? So it is part of the history, the tradition of French cheese making, but some people argue that it's a bit of a compromise. Let's put it that way. So Ossau, the Valley de Ossau, is a real valley. It's almost exactly in the middle of the Pyrenees on the French side, down from the city of Pau, if that means anything to you. I've driven up it. I've tasted cheese. I've seen cheese being made there. It's really big on sheep's milk. And the herds that graze the Pyrenees are a thing both on the northern French side and on the Spanish side, southern Spanish side. And you do get different breeds. Some of the herds are mixed breed. And as you get to different regions, they sort of have their own specialities. Around that area, the Valley d'Ossau, there is a town called Rhone, Laruns, and that has its own cheese called the Rhone. But for us sort of distant people, it looks very much to us like an Ossau Iraty. So you've got Ossau, and then go over towards the Atlantic, you get Biarritz, and that county area is called Iraty. So the Ossau Iraty has to be made between the Valley d'Ossau and the sea, and that along the northern side of the Pyrenees. Now, if you go to that area, and I really recommend you do, the cheeses are spondiferous. They often have the tom shape of the Ossau Iraty, so about that deep up to about that, and they can have all sorts of variations and using lots of different milks, and some of the best mixed milk cheeses I've ever had are from there. But the Ossau Iraty is the queen of the bunch. Now, they all have, you can just make out that one, they all have their little stamps from the cheesemaker on there. You should be able to be impressed upon that. And hard, describe it, little holes. Oh, that's annoying that you can't see that. Why can't you see that? Okay, trust me, I'm very trustworthy. Lots of little holes that develop as the cheese matures. When it's young, it's fat, white, no holes, squidgy. As it gets harder, older and harder, and the holes begin to appear, cracks between the curds open up. Exact opposite of what you'd expect on something like a Cheshire, which would see cracks, holes early as its crumbly nature, and as it gets older and it begins to break down and becomes more sort of firm curd-like. This cheese will go from white through to what we got here, so an ivory, and then it'll become vaguely translucent. It'll begin to brown up towards the edges. Don't be afraid of that. It's good cheese. That's when you're getting really good. Now, the smell is an astonishing red herring, and it's not a red herring at all. It's a smoked mackerel, which sounds really bizarre, but it is. And it's a characteristic of some cheese making techniques. In fact, it's not really smoked mackerel, but it is. It's fishy, and it happens. That fishiness happens on these rinds. Now, this one is another unusual characteristic, because what they do during maturation is they wash it with starter solutions, wash it with bacteria in the cheese as it develops, and that keeps pushing the engine of change into those metabolic processes that is within the cheese, which is absolutely splendid. And I haven't got a lot of experience, or enough experience to say is that a white period, but it's the only time I've actually seen it and watched it happen. And what you see with that is, and this I also think is quite odd, is that this is a cheese where I think that the pasteurized version outperforms the raw milk version. And I think the raw milk version peaks at 7 or 8 months, whereas the pasteurized version can go sweeping on to 12 months. And this cheese is a world beater. It is second only to Gruyere in the number of times it's won the World Cheese Awards. This has won the World Cheese Awards twice. And in the best of the best, which was 3 or 4 years ago when they brought all the old winners back, this came second. And the one that won was the one that won that year, which is not that surprising because you not only have to be a great cheese, you need to be great cheese on the day. And the one that won that year obviously was a great cheese on the day. So in terms of performance against, being able to come back and do it again, I think the Ossau Iraty is just downside. I'm over talking here, so I apologize for that. You should get it off with eating the drink. Downside is that the supermarket version of these can be a little young. It's not the quality of the cheese, it's the age of the cheese. I'm sure they're buying it from the best people, but until you get to that 7, 8, 9, maybe even 12-month stage, you're just getting something that's a bit flabby in the mouth. Okay, whereas the really good stuff, you need to get into the back quarter of the year, and then you get the dryness, you get the nuttiness, and that you're looking for. And this one, although it is going to be good because I've already tasted it, it's still got a little bit of, it's got that elasticity. So when we see it being able to bend, we're a bit disappointed that we want a bit older, but it's still going to be good. We've still got a bit of encouragement, a bit of strength there. So tasting it. Fresh milk comes through on the first time, then a salty savoriness, and then a gentle nutness, right? Now, when you taste nut in cheese, you have to have a mental awareness that you need to try and name the nut. If you can name the nut, that's proper nuttiness. If you can't name the nut, even if you think you could, that's fine, but you can't quite place it. But if it just tastes nutty in a general sense, that's just a classic sweet savory combination, and it's not true nuttiness. It's just sweet and savory happening at the same time. But lots of sheep milk cheeses can progress into real good nut flavor. This one isn't quite doing that, but it has a real body in the mouth, which is enjoyable to taste. So, filling up my glass of Fleury. No, not Fleury, pardon me, that flip of the tongue. A Beaujolais Village. And we're going. Wine is dominant. Wine is dominant. Not a unpleasant match, nothing negative happening, but it's pushing back the creaminess of the cheese, leaving it. I'd have to have another bit to be sure. Sort of like slightly emphasizing the tannin, emphasizing the tannins in the wine. It gives something extra to the wine, but the cheese loses a little bit too much because of it. So pleasant, not unpleasant, but on the scale of beautiful matches, it's not quite there. It's not quite there. It's bringing out quite, not an acidic tang, but it's like a fizz to my mouth, which I'm quite enjoying. But I'm on a ridiculous diet. I'm always on a bloody diet. So at the moment, it's a 1 meal a day diet with minimum carbs. So I've come to this cheese board absolutely starving. So everything tastes brilliant as far as I'm concerned. Right. Okay. So last one up. Now, I wanted this to be all French. As I said from previously, we've missed our boat on that. So we've got Pecorino. This one's imported by Seggiano, which is a really nice Italian importer. They only do really, I don't want to call it top end. I mean, I just want us to call it really quality stuff. A lot of it is available in a lot of delis and farm shops. That olive oil is my go-to olive oil. So that's one I get in my 5-litre jugs, and my wife then, drinks like by the pint. She rather dismisses my other oils. So Seggiano, very nice. And when I had a cheese shop, I had a very soft Pecorino, which I used to buy regularly from them. So here we have a relatively young Pecorino. Now, when I was looking at it, it did say, it's got a plastic coat. It's the most extraordinary thing. So we're going to see if we can get a slightly different angle on this. Right. So it's got a very fresh character. sort of like a little bit squidgy. It's got some natural elasticity. It's not pure curd, and it's strangely got a plastic coat to it. So if I can lift that up, it's thin. It's gossamer thin. It's like a cloth. Little bits of cloth coming on, almost like spider webs just coming off the top. So it says the rind is not digestible, but unless you read good Italian, nobody's going to actually know that. So I guess it's to protect, because it's such a wet cheese, it's protecting from the mold developing on the cheese, which is fair enough. I'm quite, I kind of want to dislike plastic coat, but some of my favorite cheesemakers use it. And so I'm sort of having to go with it, if you know what I mean. It seems to be very useful to them. So I guess that's it. Bring it on. Okay, so the truffle is black truffle. I've got a new camera and I just hope it's, it's just not focusing up close, where you can see sort of shavings and dots and all that kind of thing. So this cheese, although it is fresh, it'll pick up the characteristics of the truffle quite significantly. So what I've discovered about the fresh cheeses, doesn't matter whether it's sheep's milk or goat's milk, is that they're kind of loud hailers to whatever flavorant you put into them, and it really emphasizes it, which I really enjoy about this. So some fresh cheeses, even though you think that they won't stand up to big wines or even spirits, if you flavor them slightly or just have an accompaniment, even can be something straightforward like peppercorns or something like that, the cheese really then stands up to big flavors. So I'm optimistic about this. I know that truffle is like the fashionable thing, man. And so I'm always a little bit skeptical when they start flogging truffle. I saw one in Harrods the other day that I personally know they are overcharging for, but it's Harrods, so what can you do? Right, truffle's coming on very quickly. Cheese is much drier than you might expect, given the touch. It's got wetness to it. So it's got a dry sheepness to it. Very little cream in that kind of sense. I'm doing a lot of chewing to get the flavor of the cheese out. It's nice. It's nice, right, well. It's distracting. The truffle has the floor, if that makes sense. The cheese is very much the straight man in this experience. And it's got a little bit of your projector's playing out. We can't actually see the cheese, and it looks like Lucifer. I think. Hi, Andrea. Thank you very much. I've just got a note here that apparently I look like Lucifer. I am the devil. No, I'm not quite sure how to resolve that. Your eyes are glass-like. Oh yeah, totally, man. Okay, I will have to solve that next time, Andrea. I just have to think beautiful thoughts about the cheese, and hopefully don't see it as the devil's work. Right. It's really nicely moored. This, as I said, it's really taking on the character of a much older cheese, drier, firmer, not firmer, drier, sort of more chewable. That's a better word. That's really nice. The truffle is a funny one. Sometimes it's just not as I don't know what's the right word, on the wrong format. It's just too musty. Right, here we go. That's my favorite. That is delicious. I think the moisture of the wine inflates the flavors. That's what I think. And I think the redness of the wine is emphasized. Maybe it's the combination of the truffle rather than cheese. It's difficult to tell. But that is delicious. That is really delicious. I'm getting really pronounced red currants now. And I think a little more raspberry. That is a quality experience. That is a proper quality experience. I think we're going to have a little more. I'm not really worried about this plastic coat here. Okay, so what are we seeing here? We're seeing Beaujolais Village, our guest wine of the evening, is coming in with its more mature character than some Beaujolais, picking up the truffle, but on a bed of sweet cream. But we can't access that because it's a bit too dry and it's dominated by the truffle on its own. But the wine is inflating, enabling those flavors to fulfill themselves. And the cheese becomes much more calm and present. Sometimes when you have a really good match, you just need to close your eyes and think it, believe it for the moment, just to make sure you're not making this stuff up. And you go, no, that is bloody good. That is bloody good. I've got notes of pepper coming in, and it's like recently ground pepper, and it's kind of coming up my nose and a kind of tickle with spiciness. That is really good. That is really good. Oh, that's nice. Sometimes you don't quite get a full match, which is absolutely brilliant to get one. Right, Cusco, what would you like? Do you want a little bit of this Ossau Iraty? It's my least favorite one of the day. Having said it was my favorite, there you go. So let's step back a second and think about what we've got here. It's got 3 sheep's milk cheeses. Used milk. Sheep are quite difficult to milk for several different reasons. Start off very small udders, so 1.5 to 2 maybe liters a day. Compare that to your cow's milk up at 30 liters a day, sometimes 40 with modern breeds. Very fiddly, can't really get the milking machines onto the udders as easily. And then you've got the issue of they don't behave. Sheep are notably thick. Cows can become very well trained, sheep not so much. So that's difficult. But there's another issue with sheep that is even more hard. Sheep respond to certain daylight hours to become pregnant. So to get your sheep into a milking cycle, you are actually really quite stuck to the spring and autumn lambing schedule, which means when you're making cheese, particularly fresh cheeses, you run out of milk twice a year, or depending on your flocks, as the sheep dry up, kind of thing. So that and some sheep milkers will artificially stimulate their sheep by putting lights in the barns and keeping them inside, so they get to control the birthing cycle more actually, spread their lambing out over the year, which feels quite artificial. Don't really like that at first instance. I'm not sure if the sheep are aware of that kind of manipulation, but you sort of feel a bit funny about that. Is that fair on the natural process? So sheep, hard to make milk out. Milk is about 5 to 6 times more expensive than cow's milk. So the farmer is already starting behind in terms of trying to make a profit. This Perac, which I've really enjoyed tonight, is a sister cheese to Roquefort, comes from the same sort of region and is made with the same from the Lacoon breed. So there's a real crossover there, but in other ways there isn't much similar. So it's a nice variation for the cheesemakers to have these different type of cheeses. Whereas a Roquefort takes up to 3 months, maybe a bit more, to get to its best point, and then these things take 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks before you can sell them on. Nice, easy production, all very, very positive. So those sheep's milk in that sense is tricky. You go over the borders into Spain or Italy. You then get a whole bunch of the sheep becomes much more dominant, very, very much more characterful. A lot of sheep milk cheeses being made down there. France, not so much. Also, you have with these these aren't Alpine, Pyrenean styles, is you often get a variation between what used to be what's called transhumance, where the people would move up and down the mountain depending on the season. So often you'll get big variations in flavor depending on, we've got up the mountain cheese or down the mountain cheese. So that's been for this one. I don't know what this is, but I'm having billed it as my favorite sheep's milk cheese. It is actually not my best performing. And as to whether truffle cheeses on this cage are something that where they were doing 150 years ago, I don't think so. I think it's some innovative cheesemaker who's going, aha, those Brits or those Germans or whoever it is, let's give them a bit of truffle. Let's send out our pigs, send out our dogs to go and hunt the truffles in the woods and mix them in the milk. Well, it's been delicious tonight. This truffle pecorino has been brilliant. Absolutely released as a flavor by the Beaujolais that I'm having with it. Right, very much hope you've enjoyed that brief foray into a sheep's milk cheese board, which I'm making a nice dent in here. Next time you join me, I hope you'll come back. You will see me in a less devil-like atmosphere. Our next tasting is... Oh, I should have that on the top of my list, shouldn't I? So the next tasting is, I will come back to that in a second. In the meantime, please do come and buy my courses. Join us for the Big Cheddar event at the weekend. Just Google it. We have goat's milk next week, and we're going for a classic. This is in 2 weeks' time, 27th of September. We've got a classic Sauvignon Blanc from the Loire, which is, well, the Loire is often thought of as the center of great cheese making. So whereas this week we were kind of like a little bit of sheep's milk from France, their goat's milk, they just own it. It's their ball to kick. And we will be doing a Seltzer share, which is a nice Loire cheese on the share, very close to the wine that we're going to be having, which is a, yeah, you see, this is what happens if I don't prepare well. We've got a real classic wine, which will tell me because I've got it written down here. It's a really. Thank you very much. REUILLY. Go and get yourself a bottle. Come back in a couple of weeks' time, and we will taste them with some. What have we got? So we've got some Dutch. We've got some goat's gouda, which is very nice. We've got some Ticklemore, which is a brilliant goat's milk cheese from the UK. You're probably familiar with it. And the Seltzer share, which we're going to see if we can get really strong breakdown under that rind, so the coat is just, as it shouldn't do, according to French law, is slipping off. All right. Thank you very much for enjoying me. I hope you've enjoyed me. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. Eat more cheese, and we will see you sometime soon enjoying the love of cheese.